Hey everyone, it's Leigh with Arts Council OKC Creative Aging Program, and this week we're going to do white charcoal pencil flowers, because as you know, flowers are good all year round. So the materials you're going to need are white charcoal pencils and black construction paper, of course a big eraser, and pencil sharpener, just in case. So alright, and basically today what we're doing is we're just using a white charcoal pencil. So I know on some of our other ones we've used a black charcoal pencil, but this time when we do it we're going to actually be a little more methodical and slower. So we're really going to use the paper as the black. So, alright, you guys can do this, so let's get started. Okay. Alright, let's grab these here. Whoop, hello. Okay. Alright. So, and there are, of course, varying degrees of detail. And like this one right here is really kind of really realistic, but I'll show you. This is the actual, I just looked up some images of flowers online and I just printed them out in black and white, and so you can kind of see, you can just use whatever kind of image of a flower and you can translate it into white charcoal on black paper. I just threw some stuff on the floor, just a moment. Okay. And then you can also do a little more stylized, something like the sunflower or simple shapes, you know. You just start basic like we always do, you know, and just do a light outline and then continue adding layers of pencil. Here's an lily. There you go. This one is a little different. It's kind of a little more stylized. I probably would soften that up a little bit. And this is one that I already started just to kind of give you an example of how we're going to go about it. So you can see that on this, I just drew all of the basic shapes just very, very lightly. You can barely see the lines. And on the places that are dark, I just left the paper showing, and then I slowly kind of go back in and add a little bit more white pencil to kind of brighten it up, because this has really bright white highlights. And so you can see on these parts, you know, I pressed down harder just to kind of so I would know where I was. And then all of these little black parts in here, that's just the paper showing through, and I just gently went in with the pencil. But what we're going to do, and I'll come back to this one so we can kind of work more on this. This is definitely a little slower process, and all of these pencil drawings are. But I just like to show a few different ways of doing it. And so we'll set this up here for a minute, and then I'll start on this one. And on this is just a simple daisy. And this is actually someone did a painting, which that's great. But this is, for our purposes, they did a black and white painting. So all I did was gently sketch out the flowers on here. And you can use another kind of flower, you know, whatever. You can make something up totally. But this, I just wanted to have something so that you could see how I kind of go about it. So we have the basic shape, and really the less lines you get on there, the best. So we're going to keep the contrast. So, and then you later on you can actually kind of go in and clean it up. And just remember that when you're erasing, you don't want to drag your hand across it or you're going to smear it. So I have pencil sharpeners at the ready, a big eraser. All right, so just get your basic outline of your flowers down, and then what we're going to do is, like in other stuff that we've done in the past, is just kind of get a light layer of charcoal in here. And then just watch it, look at your image. So we're still going to go in the directional lines, okay? And if you have dark stripes in here, be aware of it. So just kind of fill it in. And you can use a light circular motion, but see, just by doing this, I'm filling in the space. But then I'm also keeping with the structure of the flower petal. And see, this is a little bit brighter, but basically what we're kind of doing right now is just getting in here and getting the basic shapes in, okay? And then as in the other white charcoal stuff we've done, you just experiment with using light circular motions. And I'm using the pencil on its edge because that gives a softer. All right, so you can see that I've just been, you know, as per the usual, slowly going in. And I just tried to get kind of a layer of pencil down. And then I'm just being aware of where I want some of the darker parts. So you can kind of, and I'm just, and you know, if you want to have a little more of a kind of a three-dimensional look to it, then just do like you have been, you know, just kind of having little curves. And I'm just using little motions. And you can just run it all the way off. And then you can also use your finger to just slightly soften things. And then you can also come in and use your eraser and take some stuff off. But we're not really worrying about too much detail stuff right now. And just, you're going to probably flip your paper around and just whatever is comfortable for you. And so just keep going. And see, I'm just going to use like little circular motions work really well if you're trying to have a really nice, soft image. And then towards the end, we'll come in with, you know, for your really nice highlights or little bitty bright details, we'll use the pencil, you know, on its tip more. So we're still just kind of bringing in just a little bit more detail. And every little bit counts. This is just a slow process. And just pay attention and just be aware of how you're holding your pencil, because different ways of holding it create different effects. So we've done this enough so you can, you know, the whole point of continuing to do the same mediums with different images is so that you continue to get more comfortable with drawing with the white charcoal pencil. And today I like that we're just mostly focusing on just the white charcoal pencil, and still how we can really create really nice dramatic images with just a white pencil and then using the black paper as the contrast. You know, having the nice, you can still create highlights, midtones, and darks with just using the white pencil and the black paper coming through. So, and what you can do to help yourself too when you're coming, you know, when some of your petals are overlapping, you can kind of come in just so that you don't lose your edge, the edge of your petal, and just kind of help yourself by adding a little bit of a highlight so you know where this one still is, and that way you know this can be a little darker in here. And we're still not really worrying right now about your light source. We're just kind of continuing to get comfortable with using the white charcoal pencil. Because on some of the softer images, it's just having the nice variation of detail. So then in this instance, you're going to figure out which petal you want to have on top. And in that case, then you're going to draw the line. And then you can kind of soften that line, but still keep it bright. I'm going to do nice circles around right next to that line. So it still creates that nice highlight, but you don't have such a harsh, sharp edge there. time. And so, and on this, I'll flip this around here. So then on this is the center of the flower, and I kind of filled it in kind of like a fan a little bit. And this has a little more fuzzy appearance, so when I'm continuing to add layers of pencil, I'm actually still doing it softly but creating more of a distinct line, so then you can kind of see how I'm filling it in here. I'm just continuing to and see, just by adding more next to it and then spreading out, then it's creating midtones and dark and highlights here, because I don't want to fill in all of it so you don't see any of the paper underneath. And then where it touches the edge up here, and it has that nice little profile. And so then we're just going to keep slowly adding more pencil here. And then seriously, feel free to flip your paper around, whatever is easiest for you. Because you don't want to, you don't have to become a contortionist with your fingers and wrists in order to fill in your flowers. And I'm going to go in here and just add a little more pressure to soften that line, to still keep it nice and bright and right. Well, you can see how it's starting to come together, and as you all know by now, this is a slow process. So just keep going, because it's really simple drawing skills. Anyone can do this. It's just a good lesson in patience, as always, because that's good for all of us. And these are nice and simple shapes. And the other, the sunflower is also a nice simple shape. But daisies are fun. And this is a little different kind of composition. So, and then you can add a little more white, which creates some other midtones. But you can even see that this is brighter, and there's multiple tones of various shades of white, not necessarily shades, but stages of white and gray, because it just depends on how much paper I'm letting show through. And so you're just really kind of, I'm bouncing around to the different petals because I'm trying to just get a nice layer of pencil on everything. And then you can just kind of come in and start adding a few more. But then you can just see, even though I'm varying the pressure and kind of making some things brighter, I'm still trying to, go in the direction of the petal itself to keep a kind of a rounded shape to it. So it's keeping the image, from getting too flat. And then if you think in the shape of a petal, then you want to change it, then just change it. You can kind of go in and just add more to it. And then if that seems too pointy, then I'm going to change the end of it. See, you don't really have to erase a lot. You just add to it with the pencil. this is more than one petal, so I'm going to come in here and give myself a line and kind of have an edge here. And then you can take your eraser if you want to come in here and denote a little more of a difference. And just remember, don't drag your hand across your pencil or it'll smear everything and that would be upsetting. So and I am just going to kind of do circular motions in the stem because I like that better than what I was doing down here. So just figure out what kind of an aesthetic you want and go with that. And you can totally change your mind too. So, and you just keep going. And then, you know, because this is all still really pretty soft. So we'll just keep coming back with a little bit more pressure. Because this one is going to have a little more distinctive edges than the other one we're going to work on here in a minute. So, because by keeping it super soft, then the edges don't really, you know, jump out at you. So we can come back and just keep going over it, and then we can, when we're kind of wrapping it up, you can go in and add more of a distinct edge. But you can still add a distinct edge without really having a harsh edge. So, but it just depends on what you want to do. You can actually create a really nice edge if you want. So you can see I've been continuing to fill this in, and you know, and if your edges get a little squirrely, then just take your eraser and come in, and just remember, you want to push it away from your image, not smear it out, because that might make you cry. Anyway, we're still continuing, and you can tell, you know, on this one where I've started adding, you know, kind of more brights in here, you can still go in and keep it bright, but then soften the edge a little. And on these that I'm going to continue to brighten up so it looks a little fuzzy on the edge, and that's fine, but we can kind of go back in and add a little more distinct line work. And see, I'm still doing, you know, directional lines. And then I can come in here still and go in and add even a little bit brighter and just see how that kind of... Then just you want to kind of pause and see, you know, if it's going, oh, that's a little too much, you know, don't worry about it. Just keep going, and you can always soften it. And if you go, oh my gosh, I like that, but it's a little too bright, then just take your finger and just tap it a little bit. And then go in just with the softening of the edge of the pencil. So... And then you can kind of come in here and just run right along the edge. So it's kind of, so then you have your nice distinct petal edge, so it doesn't look just fuzzy anymore. And then you can kind of come in and so you have a little bit of variation in tone. And just kind of go, well, and flowers petals look a little funky, you know, so don't worry if, and then just remember, you know, which one you want to have overlapping. So, and like I said, you can always come back in and change your mind, and if you think there are some lines that are a little odd, or you want to come back in and say, oh, I accidentally added too much white, then come in with your eraser. And then you might have to do it more than once just to kind of bring the paper back. There we go. Sometimes tapping it off is good. And then by going back in and adding some brighter whites, then that'll make your black come back. Okay, and then you can still go in and change the edge of your petal too. And so I want to kind of bring this down and change the angle of it a little bit. Seems to work better that way. So, whoop. So remember just to take your time, because guess what? This takes some time. So, because if you're going to try to rush through it, then you're going to have all these harsh lines, and then too, what you can do is, like I was doing over there, is you can kind of clean up your outer edge by with your eraser. But now also what you want to do is make sure that you don't just keep adding so much that it all blends together. And then you just have gray. So you still want to have some nice contrast. So if you need to kind of go in and use your eraser as the tool to kind of lift a little bit of the white. Okay. And then you'll just keep going, because then you're going to come back in and add some of those nice bright edges again. You know, this is something that you have to continually go over until you finally get it to that last little place that you really like it. So just keep adding those nice little elements. And you can just see how I'm just kind of adding these little lines, but it's bringing some of that detail out. Okay. And then we kind of want to have we want to have some differentiation between the petals here. So I'm going to kind of bring this here. I think some things kind of got blended in, but that's okay. And if you think you have too much going on, then I'm just going to come in here and... Woo! I made a big old black spot. That's okay. Well, that's good, because sometimes if you need to take quite a bit out, that's okay. And then we'll just gently fill this in here. Softly, but I don't want to add all of that, because I want to have a little nice black edge in here. And then I'll kind of come in and then I can bring these out. So I'll kind of take a little more off of here. Okay. But you all get the idea. So it's coming together, and this just takes some time, but you can see how the difference on how some of them I've worked more on them. And then in this instance, just be deliberate and slow. Because it's a lot easier to erase something that's very light or add to it, than taking it away. So. And, and if you really feel the need, you can come in and add some black charcoal pencil if you feel like you need more contrast. And that's okay. But I just wanted to kind of show you how you can just use your paper as the black. And if you slowly build up the white pencil, then you still have your nice highlights and your midtones and your darks. And then sometimes if you kind of get carried away with more white than you need, then just use your eraser and kind of come back in and soften some things. Okay. So And just keep going, because you know a lot of this is just continuing to get comfortable with the pencils and just how they work and what you like. And okay, so I'll continue working on this, but I want to jump in here just really briefly to show you on this one. And now I'm doing this in a little different way because typically it's easier, it'll be easier for you all to look at the examples that I'm doing versus going from something that's a, you know, reverse image. Okay, so on these, so what we're going to continue doing is where you have some brighter areas in here, we're still going to kind of come in. And on something like this, I'm just continuing to use really just soft circular motions. And I'll put this here, so maybe, sorry. Okay. Just to kind of show you how we're going to slowly continue to build up some of the, I'm not going to change that, so that's okay. We have all these nice highlights. And you know, and it's fine if your image looks a little different than, like, you know, the photo you're working from. The main thing is just to kind of get the basic shape of everything. So you're gonna kind of continue to bounce around, because I think that's helpful so that you can kind of keep your focus on the whole image versus getting bogged down in, you know, little bitty details all the time, you know, in one area. Because you want to keep seeing the whole thing of where you are. And see, so by then gently just, I'm going in between where I know these are the dark bits. So we want to make sure we still have nice contrast, but then we also don't want to detract from the really bright tips. So then you just kind of tap your part. So anyway, but and then on this, you know, it's helpful if you just can kind of slowly get in the base coat here. And on these, you really need to move more slowly than what I was just doing. I was trying to hurry up because sometimes I think you guys probably like, oh, it's Leigh, we're seeing you do the same thing over and over and over again. I don't want you all to poke your eyes out, so. But I know some of you all are really detail oriented, so you can do ones like this really well. And so what I'm going to do is kind of add a little heavier here, but I'm still not pressing a lot on the tip because I just want to fill in this area just to kind of. And sometimes the pencils, for what, you know, get a little hard points on them or hard bits. So if that happens, don't worry, then we'll just kind of soften this. But just be careful when you're rubbing your fingers on there that you don't accidentally rub too much of it off, because a lot of this was a lot of work, so you don't want to undo all the stuff you've been working hard with. So, but you get it, because see, and what I did do, I did kind of lightly outline where I wanted these to be, and then I just have been slowly adding in some white around it. So, and then you'll just keep adding a little bit more, and then so, because these are really bright highlights, but then there's some also midtones, so you just keep going, and you kind of come back, and you just add a little bit more pressure. I'm not going to draw a distinct line because that will also detract from the really nice soft kind of edges. But then be careful because you can tell that I've put my hand here, so it's kind of smudged out the edge. So just keep going, and then we'll just kind of bring some of this in. So we're just going to kind of keep. Okay. But you can see how it's going to continue to slowly build up. All right. So just keep going, and I'm going to come in and see where I already have this kind of line, so I want to soften that up. So I'm just kind of coming up right up next to it, but then by filling it in, you don't see the line there. And I'll eventually do that over here too, but I just wanted to show you. So you guys can totally do this. Just and even on ones that are a little more detailed, it's just break it down into simple shapes, and then help yourself by doing the little really lightweight lines, so you don't have to erase a lot. Okay, so have fun with this and just breathe and take your time. Okay, just go slowly. This is not a race. You guys are going to be spending a lot more time on this than I am showing you. So finesse is the key. You guys take good care of yourselves, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.